Just got out of the attic, brought down this coffin. I actually had two of them up there, but I'm going to use this one for this build. What am I building, you ask? Well, it's time to build a sarcophagus, or coffin, should I say, for the mummy, for King Tut's tomb. And this is what I'm going to use. I built this coffin last year for my haunt, and last year's theme was that of an undertaker, furniture maker, funeral home, and this was one of the main pieces. So if you're interested in seeing how I built this coffin, which I'm going to use as the base for my mummy's coffin or sarcophagus, be sure to check that video out. I'll leave a link in the bottom of the video description. But I think this will work out just fine for what I want to do, and it'll save me a lot of time. So let me show you an image of what I want my sarcophagus or my coffin for my mummy to look like. That's what I want it to look like. Now, this coffin is going to save me a lot of time. Again, I'm going to use this coffin as the base piece. So what I need to build is a cover or a lid to put over the coffin. And that lid or that cover will look like the picture I just showed you of the king with the gold mask and all the fancy colors and the feet that are stuck up and the arms crossed and the beard, all that good stuff. And the plan is to use foam board for the lid for the cover. Now I still have 2 sheets of this 4x8 by 1 inch foam boards that I picked up last spring. So I think that'll be enough to make my lid. Now the plan is to cut several pieces to cover the length of the coffin. And what I'll do is I'll use this liquid nails to glue the foam together. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to sandwich a bunch of this foam board together using liquid nails to make a lid. Now if you recall in that image, the lid up at the top was kind of thick and then it was kind of narrow at the bottom, and then the feet part had that part that kind of went up like the letter L, like an L shape. So I'm going to build the layers on here to get the shape that I want. And then once I get the shape that I want, I'm going to use my sander and probably like a knife and maybe a saw to shape it. Similar to the same thing I did with my Egyptian column over here. Let me show you a picture of that. I'm not sure if that's in the video or not. Here's that foam that I'm going to use, and I have 2 sheets of this. This is the column that I made earlier this year, and I made it out of that foam. And I basically did the same thing. I took a bunch of this foam and I sandwiched it all together and glued it together to get the thickness that I wanted. And then I went back and took my sander and shaped it. And this is the shape that I came up with. It's super fast and super easy, so I think that'll work out great. Now I've made one of these before. About 4 years ago, I made one for Aaron's Halloween party, which of course was Egyptian. But the one I made before, I made out of cardboard. Now I have a video of that, or at least kind of a construction process, if you want to take a look at that also. I'll leave a video there in the description. But anyways, on that one, when I made it, I bought one of these little masks, little plastic masks that you can get like at Michael's or Amazon or the Dollar Tree. This one I got from the Dollar Tree. But I'm going to use this to make the face for the sarcophagus or the coffin. And what I'll do is once I get the shape of the head up here with the foam, I'll attach this face here, and then I'll glue the beard onto this. And that'll just save me a lot of time, and plus it'll look more realistic. I guess the next step is to go ahead and start cutting the foam to make a lid for my coffin here. Now, the lid, to begin with, it's going to be rough cut. I'm not going to like size it perfectly. I'll leave like 2 or 3 inches probably all around the sides, and basically glue the pieces together in the shape that I want it. And then once I get it the basic shape that I want, then I'll go back and measure and cut and start making it look like a nice lid that will fit this coffin. So here we go. Let's get started. And of course, one other thing, you know that this project is not going to happen all at once. It's probably going to take me a couple weeks to do it. Now, I probably could maybe get it all done or a lot of it done in one day, but that's not the way I work. I'm very slow. Also, I'll be using a knife, a sharp knife to cut the foam. Now, when you use this, or whatever you're going to use to cut, just be very careful because this particular knife here, or any knife you use, really sharp and it can cut you really bad. So be careful. We'll just let those two pieces of foam that I glued together dry overnight, and then tomorrow I'll go back and add some more foam and start building the head part and the feet part. Probably need to buy some more glue because I just about used that entire tube on that piece of foam. Before I glue all the foam together, the pieces, I'm going to take my sander, my electric hand sander that has a catch bag on it, and I'm just going to smooth the edges, kind of shape them some. It'll be a lot easier to do it now, at least part of it, than to wait when it's all glued together. At least the part that's going to be kind of layered on top of each other. So that's what I'm going to do next. Again, this is the coffin I'm going to use for the base to set the sarcophagus lid on. So before I start shaping that foam and taking the foam off, I want to set it on top here and maybe kind of trace around it just so I know how much to take off and how much to leave on. This could very well be a lesson on how not to make one of these, but you got to learn somehow. That's really just too much foam to shape, so I'm going to cut a bunch of it off, and then I'll use my sander. I decided I should probably wear a mask also. This is catching probably 99% of it, but there's still a few of those pieces of foam in the air. I ended up taking some foam off the back here, off the bottom. It's just more manageable now. This will be easier to sand and shape. When I originally was putting it together, I thought, no problem, I'll just shape it, it'll come right off. Well, it didn't. I think I'm done shaping it. It's good enough. I had some leftover caulking. I went ahead and just kind of spread it around the joints just to kind of fill in the gaps and maybe act as more of a glue. And then I went through and put some screws in the foam at various places just to kind of tighten it all together. It feels pretty tight now, so I think the next step is to paint it. I'm going to paint it white. I still have the face to put on and the beard and then the gold paint. we're making some real progress here. As you can see, yesterday morning I went ahead and painted the entire thing gold. And I used spray paint. Now, that's why I painted the whole thing white first with some latex paint. I wanted to hopefully keep this spray paint from eating the foam, which I think it did a pretty good job. However, I got a little impatient the other day and used some spray paint before that paint was dry. And I used an old can that didn't really have a lot of paint left in it, but it still had a lot of the propellant in it. And that sprayed on here and it started eating through the foam in certain spots. But I kind of like it. It makes it look kind of old and it shows some imperfections, which I think looks pretty cool. So, no harm, no foul. But keep that in mind if you are going to use spray paint, that this stuff will and can eat through the foam rather quickly. Now, just about a half hour ago, I went ahead and added one of these little masks here for the top for the face. And I bought these at the Dollar Tree store. So what I did was I kind of glued them on, or glued the mask onto the top here. And then I made a beard out of the foam. And then I also made what I hope looks like hands to put down here. Now, this mask, as you can see, is hollow. And so what I did was I had some of that foam that comes in a can, that instant foam, expand foam, and I sprayed inside the mask here, and that kind of acts as glue also. So hopefully that will set up and make this really rigid. And then I had some caulking, leftover caulking, some latex caulking, and I just kind of filled up some of the cracks here around the face and the hands. Why? Because I had it, so I thought I'd go ahead and use it. A lot of this project has been, you have an idea in your head of how you want to do it and how it's going to work, but you run into problems as you move along. I've never made one of these before, so it's kind of all new to me. And so I'm at the point where I run into a problem. I'm just using whatever materials I have here that I can use to make it work. So that's why I have the caulking here. That's why I have the foam. So basically, I'm just making it work, whatever I can to make it work. And so far, I think it's turning out really well. Now, if I had to do it over again, would I do some things different? You bet. But hopefully, by this video and you watching it, maybe you'll learn what not to do or what to do when you try to make yours, if you try to make one. So the next step will be to let this dry. I'll finish painting it gold, and then I'm going to add some decorations or some designs to it. And I think I'm going to use like painter's tape and tape off some designs, and then I'll use some spray paint again. And this is kind of like a Egyptian blue, just to give it some color pop. And I think that will make it kind of stand out rather nicely. So that's where we're at now. Stick around and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. All done. It's hard to get a close-up video of it because it's so big. It takes up a lot of room. What do you think? I wasn't too sure how it was going to turn out there once I started taking the sander and sanding things and trying to work it. And I wonder why my shirt gets so dirty. This is probably the last big project that I'm doing this year for the Egyptian haunt. It's the one I've been thinking about since March. Finally just did it over the course of about 4 weeks. I like the way it turned out. Hopefully you do too. It's one of those pieces that I think I'll keep for a while. And I'll be able to store it easy because this top piece comes off, so I think I'll just put it in the attic when I'm done. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you really liked it, be sure to check out the other videos on my channel. This is just one of many videos that I did on my Egyptian haunt this year that I'm doing out here in the studio. I also have a video on the coffin I made. Now, I chose not to paint the coffin because I like the natural wood look, and that's fine. I think it looks fine the way it is, but you could paint the coffin too gold, which would look nice, but I plan on using this coffin like every year for some display or prop, so I think I'm going to leave it natural, maybe stain it sometime, but I like the way the natural wood looks. But altogether, very happy with it. So until I see you on the next video, talk to you later.